Well, hello there, and today we'll be covering the top 10 GeoGuessr tips for Bolivia. Tip number 1. In Bolivia, you should have a white Google car present. When you do have a white Google car in South America, you can either be in Bolivia, Chile, or Peru. It is also important to check the vehicle plates. Bolivia should have a hint of blue on their license plates. Tip number 2. Bolivia mostly uses wood on their signposts. So if you split between a Bolivia, a Chile, or Peru, if you mostly see thick wooden signposts, there is a much likely chance that you're in Bolivia. Tip number 3. In Bolivia, you can get bollards on rare occasions, and here are some examples. All I'm aware of is these very tiny ones are very commonly present north of La Paz. Tip number 4. Bolivia does not have much coverage at all. And the general rule of thumb with Bolivia is work south from where it says Bolivia. If you're going anywhere north of the word Bolivia, that should not have official coverage. And as you can tell, this down kind of labels where you get all the official coverage. If we look at this map, this is kind of like showing where there is no coverage. So the black lines mean don't go on these roads, and the red means is where it stops. Tip number 5. With Bolivia, it's important to keep in mind of which are the main cities to plonk for safety. My recommended top 5 is La Paz, Cochabamba, Sucre, Oruro, and Santa Cruz. Those are the main 5. There's quite a lot of other ones, but generally I would go with the ones that I've highlighted in the darker green. The ones I've highlighted in red and orange are the ones that don't have official coverage. Tip number 6. Here are some examples of where you will get the roads. The dark green is where the roads are, and the light green are the main cities. So you've got La Paz, Oruro, Cochabamba, Santa Cruz, Sucre, and Potosi. Those are really the main 6. Here's a quick zoom in example of La Paz. As you can tell, most of it's within its capital, but it kind of gets more specific as you go away from the capital. You can tell that you won't go further north from Huarina. There's no coverage there. Or there's no coverage on this road, or there's no coverages on the 19 or the 43. Towards this, the 25 either around here or here. So you can really narrow it down quite quickly. But of course, you've got the bigger lake as well. Here's an example of the other ones. So you've got Oruro, Cochabamba, and Sucre. The green is the ones that approach La Paz, but Oruro, as you can tell, it's kind of surrounded by the roads, so most of the roads surrounding Oruro should have coverage. There's a lot of roads that don't have official coverage between Oruro and Cochabamba, so that's something to keep in mind. Once you go south of Lake Popo, you don't really get any roads here. So with Santa Cruz, you've got the one single road on the 4 going that way. Don't go on any other roads that are dead west to east. If you've got concrete in Santa Cruz, just don't bother. And there is a section of road here. So never go on the 36, always go here. And you've got some roads that branch out to the west, and they got the road that goes here. Other than that, it should be right next to Santa Cruz. Tip number 7. In Bolivia, it's important to know the actual environmental differences. So although that we haven't got much coverage, you can really narrow it down even more by looking at the environment. So as you can tell, most of the tropical rainforest is to the far north, and there's a bit in Santa Cruz, but Santa Cruz mostly has a bit of grassland, followed by some mountainous forest. So the mountainous forests tend to get towards the more northern parts of the coverage. And as you go further south, you tend to get more snow-covered mountains, dry forest, and then you start getting more high altitude grass. That's something to keep in mind, and obviously it's also good to be aware of the salt flats, because Bolivia has a lot of salt flats. So if you're in salt plains, it's kind of a good hint you're in this region, and most of the Martian environment is towards Oruro. Here's a quick map of just showing the elevation, so as you can tell, it gets flatter towards the lakes and towards these areas, but generally throughout Bolivia it's very mountainous and quite high up. Tip number 8. In Bolivia, it's important to be aware of the different environments. So this is in more specific detail, and I'm going to cover a couple of examples. If you've got a very green Bolivia and it's very flat, the best hedge you should go is in Santa Cruz. If you've got hilly environments and it's green, it's probably wise to go more towards Cochabamba, along these roads, but you do get some in the past, so be aware of that. Here is an example of the map on the right that shows all the lakes. From what I've seen, this lake here is a lot more green around this lake, whereas these ones, you don't really see the lake as much, or you see it in small patches. This is quite a more of a unique one for more advanced players, but whenever you see these weirdly shaped mountains or hills, I would advise going in a place called Coipaza. I haven't seen any hills like this anywhere else in Bolivia with official street view, but if there are, comment down below. But for now, this is quite a good place to hedge. Tip number 9. On this image, we see a lot of cobblestone on the roads, and this is quite common. Well, it's between Cochabamba and Sucre, so it's more towards the east off Cochabamba, and as you can tell, all these pinpoints is where I found examples. I don't think it's going to be all there. I think it's just very, very common to be on these main roads. I didn't see any south of Aquil, but I may have not looked fully. You can also get Argentina road lines, and also a big shout out to Trickter for helping me find this. And it's very helpful. I don't think I've seen Argentina road lines elsewhere in Bolivia, so if you see Argentina road lines in Bolivia, my advice is to go on this road. Tip number 10. A big shout out to Blue for making this, and this is going to cover quite a lot of more specific stuff for Bolivia, or region guessing, or road guessing is probably the best way of saying it in Bolivia. The very first thing is the smudge in the sky to the back left of the car. So the back left, so you're facing away from the car and it's to the back left. When you have that, as you can tell, you've got a couple of roads in La Paz, you've got most roads in Oruro and Sucre and Cochabamba, so that is the generic Bolivia kind of smudge meta. Then we've got yellow. So yellow is where there is a smudge, but it's covered by clouds or sun. And you've got that one road here, and you've also got the road that leads to Chaliapata. We've also got the blur to the front left of the car. So before we head to the back left, if you're at the front left, then you should be on the road from Cochabamba leading to Oruro. The next one is the divided road. The divided road is very essential, I feel like. There's only really two examples I see in this map. The first one is the divided road that's from La Paz to Oruro. We've also got, looks like a bit of a divided road south of Sucre, but that is very limited. If you have a concrete road, I think you get different concrete roads, but based on like the scenery, it can be quite helpful. So if you've got a concrete road in a very green environment, you should be on this road. Also, you have a very concrete road southwest of Oruro down here. If you have a smudge to the front and right of the car, that's even more specific, and that's like kind of in the very green hilly areas north of Valle Grande. You've also got a camera bug with orange, so if you see a camera bug in Bolivia and it's green, you should be only on this road. There might be other examples out there, but from what me and Blue have found, that is the only example we have found. And the final one is when you have 2 or 3 smudges in front of the car. So when you have that, you should be near Camary, and it's along this section of road. But yeah, don't take this 100%. This is based off recent research. There might be anomalies, but I think it's pretty reliable when testing it. So definitely give this a try yourselves. Thank you for watching, and the next video will be Brazil. Yeah, of course.